All right, guys, if you're watching this video, that means you are a one-digit expert and you are ready to start to multiply by two-digit numbers. And I hate to tell you, but when you start moving into two-digit numbers, you are going from kind of an easy problem to a really much more challenging problem. It's much more involved and there's many more steps. So in this case, we're going to be doing a 2 by 2-digit multiplication problem. 45 is a two-digit number, 23 is a two-digit number. And so when we do 45 times 23, that means we are literally figuring out what is 23 groups of 45. But we can't multiply 45 by 23 all at once. There's two digits, and we're going to do it one digit at a time. What we need to remember, though, when we're multiplying is that 23 is not a 2 and a 3, because 2 and 3 is 5. 23 is really 20 plus 3. And so we're going to be keeping that in mind as we solve this problem. Now, you don't actually need to write that in any way, shape, or form. I just wanted to remind you of that. In fact, I am going to erase that so that you know that that shouldn't be written. But we know that 23 is the same as 20 plus 3. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the problem down. I'm going to write nice and big. I'm going to add my multiplication sign. And I'm actually going to do the 20 and the 3 in different colors because I want you to understand that we are doing the steps. I don't know if I did green there. But that's okay. I think I'm going to change that color. Oh, clearly I'm not. Oh my gosh. I don't know what I'm doing. There we go. I don't want to use green. I want to use blue for that. All right. And I think I'm ready to rock. All right, guys. So here's what we're going to do. If you look, I do have the steps of how to do this off to the left. And there are 4 individual steps to multiplying by a two-digit number. And if you skip any of them, you're going to end up with the wrong answer. So if you take a look at step number 1, that means we are going to take the 45 and we're going to multiply it by the digit in the ones place. In this case, that would be the 3. And so I am going to grab blue because I'm going to use blue for step 1. I am going to do 45 times 3, which means I am going to completely ignore the 2. So I am going to, actually what I'm going to do there is cover that up. There we go. I'm going to cover up the 2. I'm going to pretend it doesn't even exist. That way we can focus our attention on the 3. So this problem you know how to solve. This is the most basic one-digit problem. It is a 2 by 1-digit multiplication. Our attacker factor is a 3. I'm going to attack the 5, and then I'm going to attack the 4. So same thing as we've always done. 3 times 5 I know is 15. I'm going to put the 5 down. I'm going to carry the 1 directly next door. And now I'm going to attack the 4. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. So we get an answer of 135. Now, that is not my final answer. That is only step 1. I know that 45 times 3 is 135. In fact, I'm going to put an arrow here, and that represents 45 times 3. That is only part of my answer. It's called the partial product. It's part of the product. But now I also know that I'm also multiplying 45 times the 2, which is really worth 20. So because the 2 is really worth 20, I need to do something called X's and O's. That means, if you think about tic-tac-toe, it's X's and O's. I am going to do X's and O's before I move and start multiplying by that 2. So the X's are going to go above and below that equal sign. So we need an equal sign there. I'm going to do X's and O's both above and below. So above the equal sign, I am going to X out the 3 because I'm done with it. I finished with it. It's already done. I don't need it anymore. But I'm also going to X out any numbers that the 3 created when I used it. That plus 1 that I got when I did 3 times 5, I don't need it anymore. And if I don't X it out, it's going to get very confusing. So I want to X it out. So those are my X's. So we're going to do, I'm sorry, I misspoke. We're going to do X's above the equal sign, and the O goes beneath the equal sign. Now the O is going to go in a very important spot, and it's going to go in the same spot every single time. It is going to go right here. It is going to go in the ones column, right beneath the digit that's already in our ones column from our step 1. That is always going to be where it goes. And because it's an annexed 0, I may even put an X in it. In fact, I highly recommend, in fact, I require you to put an X in it because we want to make sure it's there. And the reason it's there is because we're about to move to the 2. But the 2 we know is really worth 20. But it doesn't look like a 20, it looks like a 2. And so we're going to take that 0 from 20 and put it in our answer ahead of time so we can pretend that we're just dealing with a 2. It's meant to make our lives easier. And so that is your X's and O's step. What you see in red is X's above the equal sign and the O's below. And now we're ready to move to step 3. Step 3 is we're finally going to work with that digit in the tens place, which is the 2. So I'm going to grab my purple and I'm going to now do 45 times 2. And my first digit that I'm going to put in my answer is going to go in this tens place underneath the 3 because that's where it's going to go. And here we go. So 2 is my new attacker factor. We're going to start with the 5. So the 2 is going to attack the 5 first. 2 times 5 is 10. So I'm going to put a 0 here for that 10. And I'm going to carry the 1 directly next door. Since the 5 was in the ones place, I'm going to carry it over to the tens place. And you can see why I needed to cross off that original number that I carried because it can get confusing when you move from step 1 to step 3. Now the 2, our attacker factor, is going to attack the 4. 2 times 4 is 8, plus that 1 I carried is a total of 9. And I'm just going to put that 9 in the next open place value, which is why parking was so important. You need to keep those parking spots lined up or else you won't know where to put your digits. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we are done multiplying by the digit in the tens place. In this case, it was the 2. So this right here is another part of our answer. It tells us what is 45 times 20. 45 times 20 is 900. So now we know what 45 times 3 is, and we know what 45 times 20 is. So our final step is simply going to be to combine those two parts together by adding them. And so the only numbers we're working with are 135 and 900. So I'm going to add these guys together with a new equal sign. And we're done with everything above. Like, I don't ever want you to do this, but this is done. We're done with this. Our final step is just working with our two partial products. 5 plus 0 is 5. 3 plus 0 is 3. And 1 plus 9 is 10. And since that's the end of my addition problem, I can put them both down and throw in a comma. So we get a final answer of 1,035. Now, I should have led with this, but you should always estimate when you're working with 2-digit because Bob sneaks in all the time when we are working with 2-digit numbers. And since estimating's so easy, like watch how fast we can do this. 45 rounds to 50 and 23 using that front end estimation. Well, that rounds to 20. And a little box and dot action, 5 times 2 is 10 with 2 zeros at the end. I know my answer should be about 1,000. And you can see I am very, very close. You can easily catch when you make a big Bob mistake because that estimate won't be anywhere near the actual. All right, I'm going to do another one, way neater. I mean, take a look at how messy that is. Can we go back to that? Dude, check that out. I'm not going to make it look like that again. But here's what I am going to do. I am going to bring out the black pen here, and I'm going to say we're going to do 93 times 18. Should I color code it again? I think maybe I should. That can't be bad. I'm going to go ahead and color code it. I'm going to use, I don't even remember what I used. We'll use a blue for the tens one, and we'll use purple for the ones digit. Awesome. All right, so there's my equal sign. We have 4 steps here. And so step 1 is only looking at that ones place. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy here. Hopefully this will work. And I'm going to bring him over. I call it a sweater. And basically what we're doing is we're taking this sweater and we're covering up the digit we don't care about. I don't know why I call it a sweater. I don't know. The one wears a sweater. I have no idea. And that way we can focus on the first part of our problem, which is just 93 times 8. So I'm going to do this in purple. So this is step 1, multiplying by the digit in the ones place. 8 times 3 is 24. Carry the 2 next door. 8 times 9 is 72, plus 2 is 74. I can put both digits down. Trying to keep my place value parking lot lined up because this is the hardest part. Now, the easiest step to do is X's and O's, but it's also the one that is most forgotten. X's and O's, if you don't do them, your answer will be wrong. X's and O's, if you don't do them, you will end up with a big Bob mistake. So the X's go above the equal sign. We're going to X out anything we're done with. We're done with the digit in the ones place, and we're done with anything it created. The O is always going to go in the same spot, under the first digit in the first part of your answer. Because again, we already know 744 is what 93 times 8 is. But we know we're not doing 93 times 8. We're doing 93 times 18. And so when I move that sweater away, we're going to see a 1. But we know that 1 is really worth 10. And so that 0 right here accounts for that missing 0 we don't see in the number 10. So now I am ready to move that sweater away. I've already done step 1. I have done step 2, my X's and O's. And now I'm ready to do step 3. Step 3 is to multiply by the digit in the tens place. In this case, I have the easiest attacker factor ever. I've got a 1. And all I have to do is 1 times 3, which is 3. And the hardest thing is making sure it's lined up with the very next open place value. And now I'm going to do 9 times 1, which is 9. I have nothing to add, so I'm going to throw a 9 in there. This 930 tells me what 93 times 10 is if I were to multiply those two together. Well, since this question isn't asking for 93 times 8 and it's not asking for 93 times 10, it's asking for 93 times 18, my final step is I need to add them together. And I'm only looking at these two parts of my answer. Again, I don't want you to do this, but we're done with everything up here. We don't need it anymore. We're adding the two parts of our answer. So 4 plus 0 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. And 7 plus 9 is 16. This is the end, so I can throw them both down at the same time. So my final answer is 1,674. If I take a quick trip to the spot, and again, that front end estimation is so fast. 93 is about 90. 18, that's about 20. Quick box and dot, 9 times 2 is 18 with 2 zeros at the end. I can definitely see I don't have any big Bob mistakes. This is looking pretty good. So we're going to do one more. I'm not going to color code this time. I'm just going to move a little bit more quickly. All right, so I'm going to grab my pen and I am going to do 72 times 59. I am going to, however, put my sweater here because I do think it's important. Now, you're not going to have a sweater, but what you can have is a piece of a Post-it note to cover that up so that we can focus on step 1. Step 1, just multiply by that digit in the ones place. It's 72 times 9. You know how to do that. 9 times 2 is 18. Carry the 1. 9 times 7 is 63, plus 1 is 64. That's the end, so I can put them both down, making sure we're keeping our place value spots. So this right here, and you don't need to do this, I'm just showing you. That's what 72 times 9 is. So we took care of the 9 already. What we need to do is take care of the 5. But we know that the 5 is not worth 5. We know that the 5 is worth 50. So we need to do our X's and O's to prepare for that. We're done with the 9 and anything the 9 created. I also need to put an O directly under the 8, always in that same place. And I like to know that we annexed it, so I'm going to put a 0 in there. Now I am ready to remove my sweater, and I'm ready to move to the other digit that we're multiplying by, which is the 5. And since we already put the 0 there, I can pretend it's just a 5. So now I've got to start back at the beginning. 5 times 2 I know is 10. So I'm going to put a 0 in the very next open parking spot. I'm going to carry the 1 directly next door. That's totally sloppy. And now the 5 is going to attack the 7, that is 35, plus the 1 more is 36. Now I got to make sure I line things up correctly. Each digit gets its own space. So the 3 and the 6 are going to line up like that. This is 72 times 50. Except that's not what the problem is. The problem is not 72 times 9, and it's not 72 times 50. It's 72 times 59. So our final step is to take those two partial products and add them together. 8 plus 0 is 8. 4 plus 0 is 4. 6 plus 6 is 12. So I'm going to put the 2 down, carry the 1 directly next door in my addition problem. And then 3 plus 1 more is 4. And I get 4,248, which if I estimate, which is so fast, this is about 70. I can't fit it. This is about 60. Easy. 7 times 6 is 42 with 2 zeros. Boom. Now, if you had made a Big Bob mistake, you would have gotten an answer of around 1,000. Like if you had forgotten this 0, you would have had an answer of about 1,000, which you should be able to look at that estimate and be like, that doesn't work. So this is how we do two-digit multiplication. It's a lot. It's a lot of steps. There's a lot of room for Sally. There's never room for Bob because estimating helps you to catch Bob. If you ever catch a Bob mistake, look for that annex 0 right here because the most common Bob mistake is that you didn't put that 0 there, and then you're going to end up with the wrong answer. So those 3 examples are where I'm going to stop. Actually, I'm going to do one more. If you think you understand it, I think that's awesome. But I want you to watch one more really, really quickly. So let's do 36 times, we'll do 29. All right. So step 1, we're going to ignore the 2. So I am going to cover that up and start with the 9. And so 9 times 6 is 54. Carry the 5. 9 times 3 is 27, plus 5 is 32. Done. Step 1, check. Step 2, X's and O's. X out what we're done with, above the equal sign. O beneath the equal sign. Check. Now we're ready to move into step 3, which is working with the 2. 2 times 6 is 12. Put the 2 down, carry the 1 next door. And 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1, can't forget that 1 right there, don't forget, is 7. Check, step 3 is done. These are the 2 parts of our answer. The final step is to add them together. So adding these guys together, 4 plus 0 is 4, 2 plus 2 is also 4, and 3 plus 7 is 10. We get 1,044. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not easy. If you follow the 4 steps, you got this.